Amazing. Thank you, Jamie. Hi, everyone. I'm Hannah Click. I'll be your host today. And I wanted you to, well, welcome to the 425 show first. And today we have Neil Johnson and Iris Ye, who are going to talk about how Microsoft thinks about managing Mac OS devices and also give us the latest updates in Intune Mac management, as well as migration support, and talk a little bit more about our Intune admin community. And with that, the floor is yours, Neil and Iris. So,
yeah. Thank you, Hannah. Hi, thanks everyone for joining for today's 425 show. We're really excited to present on our Intune Mac management experience and also collaborating with Entra. We have done a lot of amazing stuff. I'm Iris. I'm currently a product manager working on Intune Apple devices. Specifically, I focus on Mac device management. And I would love to have Neil also do a quick intro.
Cool. I'm Neil. I am part of our customer experience engineering team. I've been here for nearly 10 years now, focusing on Mac, so it's been a long journey, and we are excited to share what we've been up to over the past year with you.
Yeah, so this presentation, I will start with a outline and also intro on how does Microsoft think about managing Mac so far? What are we really focusing on in terms of device management? And the second part, I will go to what I've been up to. And here, I will dive deeper into 7 features specifically, and also give you an onboarding demo on how that looks like for the end user experience will be. And I will pass on to Neil to talk about the SSO features and also what's next, our planning and migration tools. If you want to migrate from other MDM vendors to Intune, what can you do? And last but not least, how to stay connected with us. We have an amazing community that you can join. So without further ado, start with the how does Microsoft think about managing Mac. Before even diving into all of the details we have for the features, for the updates, and for all of the timelines, I want to start with an overview and really high level on what Microsoft Intune is really about. We don't even not only see the Intune as a device management platform, we see it as a solution that modern endpoint management is powered by the Microsoft Cloud. As you can see from the right side, this is a picture of where we see the cross-platform initiative Microsoft Intune we want to focus on. It includes the Windows for sure under Microsoft operating system, but not only there, we have the Mac corporate managed ability, we have iOS ability, we have Android, we have Linux. So pretty much every single operating system, we are able to offer you an endpoint solution for it. Except for that, cloud management is the key and is the future. It is the present we are working on. Everything should be on cloud for the sake of security and also efficiency concern. With all of these, there are 3 layers of Intune development and Intune landscape. The first one is for sure simplified and consolidate endpoint management. Endpoint is only one side of that. Under the endpoint, when you're coming to Intune, we 100% understand that what you're really looking into is the data, it's the security behind this. So by providing this cross-platform solution, we help your organization to really save your cost and also reduce the complexity by shifting to cloud and unifying the endpoint management solutions in one place. Instead of you scattered your MDM vendor among several different things, Intune provides you this ability to come to here only and get all of your devices ready. And the second layer above that is the zero trust security. We mitigate the threats and improve the compliance among the devices. And it comes down to users. It comes down to devices. It comes down to apps and data. And all of these we believe in, we really anchor in the zero trust promise. what that means, we meant to give the authorization to only user who really need it, instead of spreading out to everyone. So zero trust is at the core for our Microsoft security promise to all of the endpoints, and Intune is built up based upon that. And the third layer for Intune, bigger picture planning, is the satisfaction and also automation perspective. Copilot has been huge, and Copilot is currently what we are actively working on as a Microsoft Intune team. What we want to provide to you is not only the endpoint experience, but also how to improve the efficiency wherever you're asking some detailed questions, such as why my devices are not compliant in Intune. Right now, you can go into the dashboard, to go into the report to check it out, but Copilot and AI ability will help you to give that answer not in minutes, but within seconds. And that is where we want to go with our Copilot initiative. So hopefully this gives you a bigger picture of where Microsoft Intune is landing in as the endpoint management solution. So on the side of that, what we are really seeing in managing Macs, we break it down into the 4 sectors to bring up the best solution we can have. First of all, platform first. What we mean by that is macOS is Apple's devices, and we hugely rely on, and also we really respect what Apple views as their product and developer features. So if Apple views a management capability into macOS, we're going to work on it. And that is the reason why we provided day 0 support for Mac MDM. Every year after WWDC, we sit together with Apple, we work on the day 0 support for all of the configuration that released for the new year. That is what we mean by platform first. And that is the core of Microsoft Intune in Mac OS device management. Also, we are sitting in the future. Declarative device management, DDM, is the future. And we are the foremost organization and MDM vendor working on it. We already released a capacity and capability of doing the DDM software update on macOS devices, and we're going to do a demo later, so hope you have a better sense later. And except for that, for the iOS suite, we already have the DDM configurations ready. What that really means is it doesn't rely on the check-in cycle as 8 hours from now for Microsoft Intune anymore. It will do a real-time updates whenever there is a app changes or a configuration change. The real-time change will go back and talk from the service to device, and device will react to it right on the point instead of waiting for that 8-hour cycle, which saves tons of the time and also efficiency. So platform first is our core. But above that, we have the MDM Plus solution. Above the platform first, we really collaborate with Apple on a close, tight-knit base on their features. But we also recognize the needs of above the MDM channel Apple can provide, such as PKG and complex package installation. And that is where we brought in the Intune agent. Intune agent is an in-house agent, and we developed for enhanced native Mac MDM stack. Not only the PKG ability managed experience provided by the Apple channel, Intune agent helps you to deploy several layers of PKG, not only for the package with the plist in, but also if you have different folders nested underneath that, we can do it for you. We provide a scripts writing and scripts deployment through the MDM Plus experience. This bundled together with the platform first gives a consolidated experience, a more holistic one. And the third one is the secure productivity. The key of Intune and the key behind this is security. We are not doing endpoint management just for the sake of doing it. focus on the Microsoft 365, conditional access, MFA, Defender. Microsoft is the only platform that you can see all of these solutions combining together. We have the whole suite above the endpoint management. That's where the Defender and our Entra counterpart comes in, and that is why we are here to share all of these solution suite. PSSO, Platform SSO, is one of those those features that can testify the secure productivity with Entra team that we have been tightly collaborate on. And last but not least, community tooling. Mac admin has been the most creative group I worked with. They are amazing in getting their own solution for their experience. So we have open source commitment, which a Microsoft Intune team for macOS devices. We have a GitHub channel for providing the scripts that you can reference as, and providing the simple migration tools you can use. All of the open source commitment are for the purpose of serving a better Mac admin experience. Also encourage the contribution to the community with the community projects. We see a lot of great admin projects on improving the onboarding experience and also migration related. So these are the 4 sectors. We're gonna come back to it over and over again. I hope that you can see where we are landing before diving into the detailed features. So here comes to what have we been up to. What are some progress we made so far regarding the Intune macOS device management? Here's a recent update. From middle 23 all the way to right now, we have been releasing and putting a lot of efforts in improving the basic experience of macOS management. So starting from 23, we worked on the Settings Catalog Plus, which is simplifying the deployment for configuration settings for IT admin. Instead of taking several days to get one new Apple platform deployment available on Intune, we improve it into a Settings Catalog Plus, which only takes days or even just several hours for the new settings to be available to our customers. The day 0 support part we mentioned earlier. And then DDM and also DDM software update was available in the summer and fall and Q3 of 23, where it has been a game changer for our end user. Imagine that your end user don't need to ask you as an admin on when my software can be updated versus I will check by myself because DDM can do it. DDM will do the work of checking the updates for your end user device and then push it to your end user devices automatically. So several more several more updates from all of our Intune team for macOS devices, and I just want to give you a sense of what have been working on in the past. So before diving into the features, here is an onboarding demo, which I believe is a great one. It's only 5 to 6 minutes, but it includes the await config settings. It includes the Filevault settings. It includes the Swift dialog, and all of those are in this journey. So when we are diving deep into features, I hope you can see where it came from. So now your end user is starting this onboarding journey, and once the Mac is powered on, they need to connect to the network and AD kicks in. And since this is the single user device, so user signs in with their work authorization with a passwordless FMA. So now the device is initiating the initial enrollment, and user stays in this onboarding assistant. In the background, Intune is using the device attestation by Apple to confirm the device identity, waiting for the management server, and once confirmed, the Mac binds the enrollment certificate to hardware where it cannot be lifted from. So then the Mac initiates its first device check-in with Intune. This is the process where the first device check-in is working. And as you can see, the refreshing these text and the notification, everything is happening at the back end. And the user stays in the setup assistant until all of the data is synced and the first check-in is ready. So the user cannot access any company data outside that. And when you see the finishing enrollment from the user side, this is going to wrap up soon. And user is prompted to create a local account by putting in the password. And the full name and account name is already pre-populated from their working authorization, the email they put in. Enabling the location and Filevault disk encryption, it is grayed out, and this is grayed out by intention, by purpose, not by accident. This is a new feature we're going to dive deeper into later. Except for that, I want to highlight on a Swift dialog here. This is a third-party tool that are really popular among all of the Mac admins team. So it is available on the Intune GitHub I mentioned. If you're interested in, definitely check it out. This is a perfect visualization for the onboarding experience for end user. As you can see, it shows when the app is installed, which is pending, which is ready. And then after all of these, user finally got the chance to come into the desktop and this device is ready to use. When we check the user experience, Desmond, as the person we're demoing here, is currently the admin. And his personal information came from the local account he just set up during the steps. And Platform SSO kicks in at this point where Desmond needs to put in his email and his information. But this is the only time after that. So PSSO allows you to put in the confirmation of your identity, your user information. And right after that, if PSSO is ready, nothing else is needed. So register the device with Microsoft Entra is what the step is for. When user putting in their email, putting in their password, the system, the device is connected with the Entra system. So now on the window, as you can see, the preparing your device, it takes some time, but that is what the moment that device is ready as part of the Entra system. So here asks to enable the ID for passkey, and coming to the settings of the Mac OS devices, turn on the company portal, use passkeys from company portal. And at this point, the SSO is ready. So we come back to the settings to check the user. And it's still Desmond, but there's one change. Desmond has been downgraded from a admin to a standard user and is currently under secure enclave key. This is huge in terms of if user still in admin, it can have he can have just excessive access, but we don't want it as a endpoint management system. So we want Desmond to only be a standard user, which is perfect after this Entra collaboration with PSSO. So now Desmond is ready to use his devices, and then coming here into the Outlook, which is general the app user check for the first time. So Desmond go through all of these, and no password is required anymore. He can have access to Outlook and all of the emails right now and readily available. Also, for the browser, Microsoft Edge, only thing he needs to do on his end is signing in to sync data. After doing this, all of the data should be available, and you can see his profile on the corner. He has access to everything has been saved under his identity, Entra identity, and also the files he wrote before or have shared with before. No password required. And then here is the app dashboard showing what apps has been deployed to Desmond end user from the IT admin perspective. So hope this gives you a sense of how onboarding is so smooth right now with Entra and with Intune and Platform SSO. Okay, enough about the general picture of that. Here comes to some real details of the features we have. First one I want to highlight here is the managed devices attestation with Acme. The Acme certificate that is delivered by Intune is bound by the SE key, and this is only valid for the devices issued to. And that is the core of this feature. We want to make sure, and from the security perspective, the certificate cannot be lifted from the device. It should be attached to it to make sure that nobody can really hack into the system just because they can lift up the certificate. The fact that device attestation itself and Intune enrollment certificate are the two features that hardens the Intune enrollment is backing up this device attestation. They work as a bundle together for the device experience during the onboarding. And Intune enrollment leveraging the MDA with Acme is currently working in progress, and we expect it to be ready by this year. And the second feature is a wait configuration for automated device enrollment. During the onboarding demo, there was a setup assistant. The user has been there for quite a while. It is by design, and in the Intune Admin Center, it is really simple. It's just one toggle button, and that's it. Even if it's so simple from the user experience perspective, it changes a lot. The core of that is it truly shields user from using and accessing company data without completing the enrollment, without completing the check-in. And so as an admin, if you turn the toggle on to yes, and then await final configurations is turned on, so your end user for your managed devices will stay in setup assistant until the first check-in is ready. All of the device data has been synced with your configuration, and that is huge for the enrollment experience and the security during the process. The third one was also part of our demo. If you remember the gray button I mentioned, Filevault during the setup assistant was where you graded out. And in the IT admin portal on the left side, I put a screenshot there. It's also super simple from the user experience perspective. Under the configuration and settings catalog, the only thing you need to do is search for Filevault and then enable it to on. When it is enabled, then the Filevault disk, the encryption settings on devices will be grayed out, which means your end user cannot opt out. They have to enable the Filevault disk encryption for the sake of securing the data. And this step happens during the onboarding experience for them. No extra effort from the end user perspective. All they need to do is go through the screen and then click continue to wrap up their onboarding. So that's all of the features on my end, and now I will pass on the presentation to Neil, and he's gonna share with you all of the great stuff from Platform SSO and migration and other DDM related features.
Thank you very much, Iris. There were some awesome things. That was a great demo. My favorite thing by far in that is the Filevault disk encryption. For those that are new to Mac, or for those that even can remember, for like the decade before that, we would have to reboot the Mac, right? So we would have to go through the provisioning of the user, get them ready, land them on their desktop, almost hint and show the desktop, but then we would have to reboot for them, which you know is yeah, just a super frustrating experience for them. So Iris, can you do the next slide for me, please? So the next thing here, we're going to look at platform single sign-on. This is an evolution of enterprise single sign-on, which is something that Apple built and made available for iOS and macOS sort of 5 years ago, and we've been deploying and using for for the duration of that time, and that allowed us to have single sign-on essentially. Platform single sign-on is the evolution of that. So it was a partnership between Apple and Entra, and Intune is the glue that connects them together. It provides us with some really cool features. So it allows us to do like essentially Windows Hello for Business, but on Mac. So if you're in a Windows environment and you've got Windows Hello for Business deployed and you're wondering how you would handle that for Mac, Platform Single Sign-On is the answer to that. So we have a secure enclave process where we can essentially use the hardware-backed environment on the Mac, and we can store credentials in there, and we connect the local account on the Mac to the Entra credentials. And that is super secure. The end user doesn't know their passwords, and so that allows us to be able to provision platform single sign-on and a really strong and secure environment, and a great end user experience that Iris demoed earlier. Another big thing that you will have seen from Apple in the summer at WWDC was passkeys. Apple are really pushing passkeys at the moment. They are really focusing heavy on passkeys, as is the rest of the industry trying to get rid of passwords. And this is great, right? Because what this means for our end users is that we can replace the need for a password by being able to use Touch ID or Face ID with their Mac, right? So that's great. It means we can use things like the Touch ID built into the keyboard, or we can use their phone, and we can use the biometrics of their phone to approve and pass credentials across, which is great because it means that those things can't be phished, right? It's very difficult to get somebody's account and password off them when they don't know what it is. A big thing here is that the identities are not syncing to personal iCloud. So one of the real issues that we've had with Mac over the years has been having enterprise data caught up in personal iCloud. So often we have to disable iCloud entirely. And passkeys are great. So with the managed payloads that we have in Intune, we can control where those passkeys get stored, and that is great, right? It allows us to make use of those, and we don't have to switch off iCloud. Have that next slide, please. So this is how we think about authentication methods in platform single sign-on. So many of the customers we work with in the Mac space are doing password sync today, right? So they would have tooling to handle password sync from Entra. So they would have their Entra password synchronized directly down to the Mac, and that's okay, right? That kind of is okay. That's what we've done previously. The big problem with that is that if you lose, or if that local credential gets compromised, you've lost the credential in the cloud, right? So you've lost access to your cloud infrastructure, your cloud services. So even better than that is smart card, right? Where you have this like additional piece of credential that you need to be able to prove access to the environment. It's a little bit cumbersome these days to require smart card, and there's an expense to deploying those. What we think is the best mechanism of doing this today with platform single sign-on is something called secure enclave, which, like I mentioned previously, for those that are familiar with Windows Hello for Business, this is the same thing, but for Mac. It's the same protocols. And in fact, those of you that were part of the preview of this, if you look in your sign-in logs in Entra, you'll see that when a Mac signs in with platform single sign-on, it looks like Windows, right? It's really difficult to tell the difference. So the reason that's great is because we're using hardware-backed controls to keep our credentials. So we've got those credentials can't be stolen, they can't be removed from the Mac. So we know it's the Mac that it claims it is, and the credentials that we wrote into the secure enclave are we know they're not been tampered with, but also we have this local password still for our Mac. So, and we think about that more in terms of a PIN, like you would do for Windows. And why that's good is that if that gets compromised, you've just lost access to the local Mac itself. So that means that you can quickly change the password, or you block access to your cloud credentials, and then you haven't lost access to all of the data that you store in the cloud. We think that the secure enclave is the best mechanism of deploying platform single sign-on today. We recognize that's a change for some Mac customers particularly, but it's really just aligning with what's happening in the rest of the enterprise. And that's great, right? So having Mac aligning with the rest of enterprise, especially from a security perspective, is great, right? It makes Mac easier to manage, it makes it cheaper to manage, and it means that your enterprise estate is less complicated than it was previously, and more secure too. So thank you, Iris. If you move on to the next one where the demo begins, thanks. So this is what that looks like. So this is showing sign in using passkey. So you can see the phone here, you use your camera, and then because the passkey's already been set up on the phone, you just scan it and then you are done. So this showed that same ADE enrollment flow, but essentially I authorized that using my phone rather than having to use my username and password. So the nice thing about that, of course, is that there's no credential passing from one to the other, right? We're not copying usernames and passwords and things. So we demoed, or Iris demoed, the downgrading of Desmond from an administrative user to a standard user. This is a really critical part of platform single sign-on. So that was handled in the policy. And once the end user configures platform single sign-on, everything that's in that policy then applies to them. So that allows us to do all kinds of clever things, but one of them is that as long as there's an existing administrative user on the Mac, it means we can downgrade the user to be a standard user based on the platform single sign-on policy. Why that's cool is because you can control that based on the grouping and targeting within Intune. So we can have a different set of policies for different users. So let's say you have users out there that do need to be administrators. You could add them to a group, and then you would apply the platform single sign-on policy that allowed them to be administrators. Then you would have another group of user accounts, and they perhaps needed to be standard users, and then we would assign the platform single sign-on policy for standard users to those users. So that again is really cool. We can even change that behavior too. So if we move users between groups, they need to sign out and sign back in again, but it allows us to do some fairly clever controls of whether the user is a standard user or an admin user. And we've got further investments in this area for standard user and admin user and password controls later in the year. Okay, the next slide, please, Iris. So just-in-time compliance, this is coming soon. We're working on this at the moment. This is a unique to Intune feature where when we launch an application that requires enterprise access, so any application that's using the Microsoft authentication library, when it authenticates to Entra, if there is a compliance component to that authentication request, so if we're controlling access to our enterprise data by requiring a compliant device, we'll evaluate whether the device is compliant or not. If it is compliant, we allow the access. If it's not compliant, what we do today is we refer the user to the Intune user portal, right? So we send them off to a portal where they see a list of all of their devices, and they'll need to click on the device that they're on, and then they'll see in there what Intune thinks is wrong with their device and why they've been blocked access. Just-in-time compliance moves that to the application itself. So the concept here is you might launch, or the end user might launch Teams or Outlook, and let's assume that their device is not compliant. So it's using, let's assume the operating system is, too low. So they've not updated in time. What would happen today is they would get redirected to the user portal, but with just-in-time compliance, they'll see a note in their application which will tell them precisely why they're being blocked access. But we'll do it live. We'll do it right there and then for them, and tell them what they need to do. And the feedback that we're hearing is that this kind of inflow feedback to end users is critical to having a good experience, right? Especially where we're blocking access, where we've already made their day difficult, right? All they want to do is get access to their emails, and we've blocked them from doing that. Forcing them to go off into different portals and to look things up is really frustrating for them. So showing them what's happened, why it's happened, and what they need to do about that, we're hoping is going to improve the end user experience. So we're really excited about this. We're hoping this is coming in the near future. Okay, next slide, please. This was a huge change for us in Intune. So the resource access profiles via user channel. In plain English, what this is being able to install certificates into the user keychain rather than the system keychain on a Mac. So a Mac has two places it can store credentials. The system keychain, which is typically where things like device credentials get stored. And then you have the user keychain, which is where things like your passwords might get stored, and your passkeys get stored in there too. So by putting the user certificate in the user keychain, that allows us to use those certificates for things like VPN applications or any other application that's using certificate-based authentication. Prior to this change, the user would have to type in their keychain credentials to grant access to the system keychain every single time that the certificate was needed to be used, which is a really poor end user experience. So this change was fantastic. We were really excited about this. It came in towards the end of last year, so most customers saw this in December. We had a preview that ran from October, and the feedback from customers is great for this. It makes the end user experience so much better than it was before. So yeah, really pleased with this one. Next one. Thank you, Iris. So we were told before we did this, we weren't allowed to do anything that was NDA. And this is not NDA, but it is probably new to most people. So we currently do not support Apple Vision Pro, VisionOS and TVOS, but we're actively working on both of those platforms right now. So this is something we're really excited about. We're really excited where Apple are going with the Vision devices and what they're going to do next. We're being asked by our enterprise customers to support those devices and make them safe to store enterprise data on. And I'm pleased to announce that we've got a few commitments here. So firstly, we support application protection policies on Apple Vision Pro today. So if you have users or a need for Apple Vision Pro, you can protect your enterprise data. I think that's just Outlook and Teams today, but other apps are coming along in the near future. And you can protect those just like you would do on an unmanaged iPhone or Android or iPad using our application protection policies. So that's got encryption, it's got PIN protection, it stops copy and paste, and a whole bunch of other controls in there. So we can do that right now. You can do that today. The next thing that is coming along is the private preview for MDM management of Apple Vision Pro. So this is the ability to enroll VisionOS into Intune, and we'll be able to apply some policies, so custom policies. We will be able to retire the devices, so we'll be able to kick them out of Intune management, and we'll also be able to upload custom configurations. So you'll be able to create custom payloads and have them deployed to the Apple Vision Pro, which will control and restrict what it's able to do. So we're really excited about that. We're hoping that we'll see that private preview during H1 of the year, so in the next few months, and then that will iterate as we go through from there. So we're looking to bring more capabilities and more features there. We're also bringing support for TVOS. So TVOS will be similar in that it will only support custom policy initially. Both of those will require an Intune Plan 2 license. So that maybe is something that you do not have today. So it's if you need to manage TVOS or VisionOS, it's worth taking a look at the licensing for Intune. But a Plan 2 license is required for what we call specialty devices. For TVOS, we've made a specific change there where each license will support 15 Apple TVs. So we listened to our customer feedback that it was going to be too expensive for one license per device. So we've made a change for that. And the goal here is to replicate the vast majority of capabilities for iOS over to VisionOS and TVOS. So you'll see us iterate as we go through. But like I say, the private preview of that will begin in the next few months. Next one, please. macOS app management. So this is, so Iris should have been speaking to this really, because this is what she's been working on quite a lot lately. But we've been investing quite a lot of time here. What we've been hearing from our customers is that app management on Mac takes a huge amount of their time and effort. So, you know, trying to make sure that apps are available to their end users and that they're the right version and that reporting is good and that we can keep them up to date and that we can handle onboarding. So the demo that Iris showed, we're using Swift Dialog and integration there. So we've got 3 different modes of doing app deployment. So we've got managed apps. This is using the MDM stack on macOS to deploy the apps. It's a really great way of deploying apps, but it's got a lot of limitations as well. So there are some constraints there that certain applications we just can't deploy via that mechanism. It works well for quite simple applications, but many applications we just can't deploy that way. It also has a dependency on not only the application, but also the package installer being signed. And many of our customers don't have those capabilities. So the second way we have is DMG apps. So DMG is a super popular way of getting apps. It's essentially like a flat file essentially with an application installed in there, and that's what we support. So we support a DMG with an application in it, and that application, as long as the application is a drag and drop from the DMG into the applications folder, you can deploy that with Intune up to 8 GB in size. And then finally, where we spend most of our time is in this flexible PKG installers. This is using our agent to install custom PKGs. Now, these can be unmanaged and unsigned, which make up the vast majority of PKGs that we need to deploy for Mac. We support pre-install and post-install scripts. We have some really clever detection logic going on for these now, where we're detecting both the what's called Spotlight, so whether the search of Mac detects the app, and also whether the package receipt is there. So we've got a huge array of features for app deployment. We think most customers can now deploy and manage their apps via Intune, and we've got some more investments coming. So Iris is working pretty hard on custom app detection at the moment. So next one, please, Iris. I'll skim through this one fairly quickly, but we also have some investments, some long-term investments on analytics and automation roadmap. So we're hearing from our customers that they need more data, they need more attributes on the devices being stored in Intune. and they also need to be able to use those to both generate reports and to automate. So the vision here, the North Star, if you like, is for us to be able to give you the ability to determine exactly which attributes about your devices that you store, and then for you to be able to create super complicated and refined queries using things like KQL, and to generate reporting that you need for your business based on your devices. And then finally being able to use those attributes and those queries to be able to execute actions, right? So, be able to do things on devices based on the queries and the attributes and the state of those attributes that we know. So that's what we're working on, again, cross-platform across all of the platforms that we support, and that will include Apple Vision Pro and TVOS too. But this really is where we are heading as a product. Next one, please. So what's next? I'm keeping one eye on the clock here. So next one, please, Iris. So what have we got going on here? So user channel support we already have. Sidecar enhancements. This is our Intune agent. We're almost constantly shipping changes here. One of the big changes that we shipped this month was to have Sidecar running more quickly. So it's now the very first thing that we push down to a Mac. So what that means is our scripts and packages get kind of bootstrapped and running really quickly within seconds. So within sort of 20 seconds or so of the management profile, we're actively running policy on the Mac, which we think is great. Local account password service is something that we're really invested in, and that is coming for H2. That's the ability to manage local admin passwords on your machine and kind of, have them be available to your support staff, and then to be able to reset them as well as needed. So we think that's likely during the second half of the calendar year. macOS recovery lock management is another really important one. This is equivalent to like firmware on a Windows machine. It controls the end user's ability to get into this kind of sensitive area on the Mac. Currently, if they get in there, they can make changes and do things that we don't want them to do. So Intune is going to provide the ability for the IT pro to set a password. So without that password, they then can't get in. Managed device attestation with Acme. This is about proving the device is who it claims it is, again using that hardware-backed secure enclave to do that. So we're very excited about that. The previews of that have just finished, so we're hoping that will go into production during H1. Custom app detection we talked about. This is Iris's baby at the moment, and we're hoping this is going to be Q2. Platform single sign-on is with our colleagues in Entra. The current public roadmap for that is just towards the summer, so kind of June, July, August timeframe for that. We're hoping that will be GA. It's currently in public preview and is supported. So if you want to go and use platform single sign-on today and you're put off by the preview tag, we will support you. You can call support and they will help you. GA just means that we will, at the minute, in theory, we could make changes to it. That's what the preview tag means, essentially. Once it goes to GA, it becomes a little bit more rigid, so there's unlikely to be any breaking changes. But yeah, you could go and deploy platform single sign-on today, even though it's in preview. And then we have JIT compliance remediation that we talked about in the slide earlier. So next slide, please, Iris. So migration, this is something I'm really keen to talk about, and it's been a hot topic for tons of our customers. We've got 3 different ways to approach this at the moment, so which is great. So a year ago, we had 0 ways of doing this, and now we have 3. So 2 of these, the top 2 are from outside of Microsoft. So MDM Migrator is from one of our MVPs, Samesh Patak, who's done a great job with the MDM Migrator. What it does is unmanages the Mac from Jamf. I think it only supports Jamf, and then handles the handover of management to Intune. Mac Onboarding Mate, I think Adnosis support a couple of different platforms. The top one, again, Samesh's tool is free. I think Mac Onboarding Mate is a paid solution, but you get support with that from Agnosis. Both of these two guys are on LinkedIn. So if you're looking for a solution here, hit them up on LinkedIn, and they both love to talk about Mac migration like you'd expect. So catch them on LinkedIn. They are both super friendly guys and super knowledgeable. And then I wrote a shell script to do in-place Mac migration for one of our customers in December, and we've put that onto our shell samples repo, and the URL is there. And I'd like to demo that for you quickly as well. So if you flip over to the next demo. This is showing an in-place migration. So this is a Jamf managed Mac, and what we've done is we've made the migration script available in the self-service portal. So the end user has decided that they have a few minutes spare and they're ready to migrate their Mac over to Intune. So they launch the script. This is the first thing it does. It warns them what's going to happen, and they can choose to migrate or they can choose to exit. The migration script then walks them through the process. So here we are unmanaging the Mac from Jamf. So we're removing the management profile. We're now telling the user that what's going to happen next. So we're telling them the next step they're going to have to sign in to Setup Assistant. The Mac launches Setup Assistant. You'll notice this is identical to the demo that Iris showed at the beginning. So it just shows them the onboarding process. And then the user here, Kate, does her authentication. Again, we're going to use passwordless auth with Entra. So this is just using Authenticator on the phone. Could use passkeys for this too. And then here we're basically migrated, right? So the management of this Mac is now no longer with Jamf. It's now with Intune. And the next step that the user will see is that familiar onboarding process, right? So we're going to hold the user in this screen while we wait for Intune to get itself ready. So in the background, Intune is deploying the management policies, those restrictions policies. And in this particular case, we're also deploying Swift Dialog. So in about 30 seconds or so, the user will then start to see the onboarding flow of Intune. And in this particular case, what we did was we didn't prepare the device particularly well, right? So when we do most migrations, we would make sure that all of the applications are installed prior to migration. So we make the migration as quick as possible. In this particular case, you'll see that the migration script has detected that Office is already installed, but Edge wasn't. So we start to run through that installation process. We keep the user in this dialogue so that they can see what's happening, right? So they start to they can see that something is occurring, and we just kind of gives them reassurance that that something is happening and their device is migrating. One of the things that we do with most customers when we're doing this work is we try and match everything before and after, right? So by that, what I mean by that is we would make sure that all of the applications that we have installed or that are being installed here that we're checking for, we would have already deployed them in the source MDM platform before we migrate. So we've got customers that have got this migration flow down to between 60 and 90 seconds at the moment, which is absolutely phenomenal, right? So they literally will go from clicking the migrate button on Jamf, and then less than 2 minutes later, they are completely deployed with Intune, fully managed. We've also repointed Defender, and the device is fully done and managed and compliant, which is which is pretty cool. So that's probably as much as I need to see of that video. Should we move on to the next? So this is our LinkedIn community. So for those that are interested and that you've liked what you've seen here and want to learn more, if you hit the aka.ms Mac admins link, that will drop you to our LinkedIn community. It's completely free. It's LinkedIn group, so it's a kind of an open public group. In that group are lots of our engineers, PMs like Iris. There's customer experience engineers like myself in there. There are lots of Apple employees there. There are lots of our MVPs there. It's a great community to be part of if you are managing Macs in a Microsoft world. So recommend that wholeheartedly. And it's growing really quickly. So when I first put it up, I wrote a piece to my manager saying we weren't expecting any more than 400 users, and a year later it's at 4,000. So it's growing really, really quickly. So and with that, I think we're good for some Q&A. I think we've got 5 minutes left to do some Q&A.
Yeah, well done, Neil and Iris. Thank you so much for coming on. But yeah, there's a couple questions in the chat I want to go over. The first one, because in this most recent demo, we saw that you used an application called Jamf. And one of the questions kind of relates to this. It says, does Microsoft use Jamf to manage their Macs internally?
That's a brilliant question, and I get asked this all the time. So thanks for that, Hannah. So we've never used Jamf. So as much as there's a rumor that we do use Jamf to manage our Macs at Microsoft, we've never used Jamf. We've always used Intune for Mac management. And we have a lot of Macs within Microsoft. It always shocks people the number of Macs that we manage. But we're a software engineering company and we manage a lot of stuff. We have a lot of iOS apps. We have a lot of apps that run on Mac. And we have a lot of developers that write that code. So there's a lot of Macs within Microsoft. They all need managing, and they are all managed with Intune and Entra.
Awesome, thank you. All right, here we have another question. It's kind of more of a higher level question, but how does Microsoft think about Mac and enterprise security?
Oh, that's another great question. Yeah, we kind of think about Mac as like not a special citizen, right? So often when we meet with customers, they're really struggling with Mac management because it's historically been really different, right? So you've managed your Macs with a completely different suite of tools than you would manage everything else in your business. So Mac has always been this kind of special child, right? And that adds to the cost and complexity. It means that almost every change you make in your business, you have to do twice. You have to do it for your Windows machines. You have to do it for that stack, but then you have to do it again for Mac because it's a different management stack and the integrations are different. So the way we think about this is we try and align Mac as closely to what we're doing in enterprise with Windows as we can do. And the reason that's important is because it lowers cost and it increases security, right? So why that's important is that you've got one pane of glass to see everything that's going on in your environment, and you don't have to make a special query or a special report to go and see just what's happening in Mac. You can see what's happening across your organization, and particularly the work that Entra have done with platform single sign-on has helped here, right? So shining a spotlight on what's happening with identity on Mac has been phenomenal, because what we've seen with many customers is they've had exceptions for password management on Mac, right, where the passwords have been really short and really simple. And platform single sign-on allows us to get rid of that and bring them in line with these, more complicated fishless MFA credentials that we use elsewhere in the enterprise. So that's typically the way we think about it. We want the Macs to be meeting exactly the same bar as all of the other enterprise devices.
Yeah, and security is very important nowadays, especially. Okay, there is one more question. I think we have time for one more question. Let's see here. How is Microsoft thinking about local admin password reset?
Oh, that's good. Do you want to take this one, Iris, or do you want me to do this one?
Yeah, I can do part, and Neil, feel free to jump in. I think for local admin password, first of all, we recognize this has been an ask from customers for quite a while, and we are actively working on it. And so the idea behind it is just giving a more secure plan for in case the password needs to be reset. And if you lost password, how can the end user still get access to their device in a safe solution? And so that is the whole idea behind this. And what we want to bring up is we don't expose the password to the end user fully, but we provide a token-ish related, the type of identification format for our end user. And that is the whole idea behind Labs. And I will let Neo to add up to it.
Yeah, I just echo that. The Labs is the number one request. It is, I've never, in nearly 10 years of working in this sector, I've never seen a single feature have so many customers behind it. It is by far the top priority. And we totally get it, right? Being able to deploy administrative passwords and then manage them and manage the life cycle of them. So we store them securely. We allow them to be reset and rotated. It's complicated and it's a difficult nut to crack, right? Because those credentials are really highly privileged, and we need to make sure that only the right people have them, and we're not exposing organizations to significant risk. So Labs is a really big part. We will implement the set of APIs to handle that in H2, and that underpins being able to deploy standard end users too. So at the moment, the end user is an administrator at provision time, and then we have to downgrade them later. Labs gives us the ability to provision the end user as a standard user, which is the holy grail of kind of admin of these devices, right? So it means that we've got total control over the device from when it's taken out of the shrink wrap and right the way through to the end user getting to the desktop. And we're maintaining security, we're guiding the end user, and Labs is that probably the last key of doing that. So yeah, we're pretty excited about that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you both. That is time. Thank you both for coming on the 425 show today and giving us this amazing presentation. For the attendees and who sees this video will be on YouTube within the week. And I have to put a little plug in. On February 26th, also at 8 a.m. Pacific, we have another 425 show where we'll be going over Security Copilot in Microsoft Entra. All right, and that's it. I hope everyone has a good rest of their day, evening, wherever you may be, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.